we researched Nazi Germany by Christian Rodriguez.
I'm familiar. So just before we start the program, the presentation, a little bit about Harvard Academies. We talked to selected Harvard students and alumni to explore current and past political issues worldwide. We gain a deeper understanding of how different policies and laws affect countries. So we're going to talk a little bit about politics or political structure. Then we're going to go into economics, and then we're going to see how World War II affected their economics. Then we're going to compare Nazi Germany to the United States.
So for the intro, Nazi Germany was controlled under a single party, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, from 1933 to 1945. It was the only party in Germany and was controlled by Adolf Hitler. The Nazi Party scapegoated the Jewish people as being responsible for Germany during the Great Depression and the poor situation within. It further escalated into the Holocaust, which was the genocide of the Jewish people, taking 6 million lives. The government was a fascist totalitarian regime, used nationalist rhetoric to rally the people behind one banner, and they also started World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, with the invasion of Poland. In these pictures, we see Hitler at the very beginning of his reign, 1933, just took power, and here we see him at the very end, 1945. Germany is about to collapse, and the dichotomy is fascinating. Further into Nazi German politics, Hitler would become chancellor in the democratic Weimar Republic, which was established in between World War I and World War II. But upon taking power, he would do away with all democratic systems, and the party had complete control over its citizens and their everyday lives. The Nazi Party, with its absolute power, would use it to enact its racial policies to oppress all religious and racial minorities. Hitler would surround himself with the inner circle of his most loyal and fanatical followers, and each of them would hold power at the chain of command. Up in the top right, we have Himmler, leader of the SS. We will discuss political institutions further, but he was the leader of that organization. We have Speer, who is the architect of Germany, built a lot of buildings and a lot of its more fancy places. Below him, we have Bormann, Hitler's private secretary, would take power in the event of Hitler's death, if that were to hypothetically happen. Up the top is Göring, Supreme Commander of the Air Force, and also President of the Reichstag. We'll discuss the Reichstag further later. Goebbels, propaganda minister, who basically is the one who kind of spread the idea of, we'll discuss this further, but of the Aryan master race, and how all others are inferior. And below him we have Heydrich, the one who came up with the idea of the Holocaust and its genocidal nature.
Okay, so politics, to be continued, the SA Party would be established in the earlier the Nazi Germany Party, acting as a tyranny to suppress any other party that opposed the Nazi Party. The SS would be established, starting as a security force for Hitler, and it would be used to oversee the concentration camps. The Gestapo would be established as secret police. The Aryan was a master race, and all other races were considered inferior. And the absolute power of the Nazi Party, the absolute power of the Nazi Party was used to persecute all racial and religious minorities. The goal of the Nazi Party is to establish the new order of the global Aryan domination.
And so these pictures, at the top we have the SA. They would basically go around to Jewish stores and put posters on the front, basically urging the people to boycott these stores. And below that, we have the concentration camps in the SS at Auschwitz. We have Heinrich Himmler looking over Auschwitz and some of the prisoners held there. Next, we have the political structure of Nazi Germany. At the top was the Führer, or a leader. Of course, was Adolf Hitler. Surrounding him was his inner circle, or personal cabinet, that of course he selected and we discussed earlier. Below them was the Reichstag. Now basically the Reichstag was an old relic of the Democratic Weimar Republic, where it was kind of like a parliamentary building. Of course, it was all just a sham, entirely made up of members of the party, and would basically just where Hitler would give his fiery speeches and where everyone had to clap at the end. All decisions of the party went directly to Hitler. There was not a single decision that could not be approved by Hitler. Everything needed his final say on it. Of course, then we have the political organizations, the SS, the SA, the Gestapo isn't here, but of course there's the secret police.
Alright, so some economics of Nazi Germany. So Hitler would basically do away with any reparations to any allied power. Many large companies would align themselves with the Nazi Party, including Hugo Boss, Porsche, and Mercedes-Benz. The military production increased significantly preparing for war. For the war they would start, this rapid build to greatly decrease the unemployment rate and rose the GDP. And so in these pictures, you see the unemployment rate decreasing. Yeah, the GDP.
In 1933 was when the Nazis took over, and you can see that's when it began to rise and began to collapse. Now, during the war, the economics changed. During World War II, Nazi Germany would transfer its concentration camps into labor camps, using slave labor to build up military equipment for the war. And during their conquest of World War II, they would exploit all occupied territories and puppet governments that they propped up to be given and returned back to Germany to be used as concentration camps and for its people. And all occupied territories would force, of course, give this up. And for the picture, we see the farthest territorial extent of Nazi Germany. This was in 1942, and it was all downhill from here. We have Hitler in France after the recent conquest of France, seen in front of the Eiffel Tower, and we see a bunch of prisoners of Auschwitz getting escorted into Auschwitz, which is the biggest concentration camp of the war.
To compare Nazi Germany with the United States, in the United States we have checks and balances, we have a Congress, and so it's meant for equality, like the Congress. Both significantly differed with their political systems, ideologies, and skills, as well as their intentions of the actions. Nazi Germany was a dictatorship that enforced racial superiority through violence and systematic persecution of minority groups, specifically Jews. Nazi Germany was very militaristic and always aggressively preparing for war. The United States is a democracy with a system of checks and balances, like I said, and Nazi Germany sought territorial expansion and world domination.
Next up, we have